how did you break that pattern of understanding also you have to not just deliver the results, but also kind of show the results? But for me, I find that I feel almost like I'm not one to like to pat myself on the back or rah, rah, rah. For me, so how do you break that pattern so that you not just allow your work to speak for itself, but you do it in a way that you feel comfortable, that you're not just
Yeah, I think it goes back to my last point about being yourself at work was what kind of helped me. Because when your results speak for yourself, you're kind of in a box to a degree, more reserved, professional, kind of at arm's length with people. And I think the big thing that helped me was saying, it's okay to be me at work. And it was interesting, one of the people that I worked for when I came out of business school at Procter & Gamble, my manager, who's actually a really good personal friend of mine now, a woman named A.C. Eggleston-Bracey. She actually still with P&G. She runs the global cosmetics business for Procter. So she has cosmetics across the globe, the manufacturing facilities, like everything, you know, tens of thousands of people in her organization. She was just a brand manager when I worked for her. And she was like this super funky, from Chicago, you know, platinum blonde, natural hair before African-American women were going natural. She wore funky clothes to work. She had these funky little glasses, and she worked out. She ate crazy, like super crazy healthy again, way before most people were doing it. And I saw her and I thought, wow, she's being really successful at this super staunch, conservative, Ohio-based company that, you know, supposedly has ties with the devil. Okay. You guys have heard that story about Procter & Gamble. So I thought, wow, she's really herself at work. And all these people from the Midwest who've probably never seen anybody like her are accepting of her. And so I think that when people become more personally invested in you, then they see what you do differently. And that, for me, is kind of the big unlock, was when people said, I care about this person to, you know, sort of a news point beyond just the work that they're doing and the results that they're producing, then they see you in a different light. And I think her as a kind of role model for me was, I can be myself. Like, you know, I happen to be more of an introverted person naturally. So that's how I show up at work, that's how I show up at work. It takes me a little bit longer to build personal connections with people. That's fine, but let that happen. And then I think you'll be able to make that transition from, it's not patting yourself on the back, people are just more involved, and they'll see your results differently.
Anyone want to add? Going back to the floor for questions.
It's not a question, it's more of a comment. I just think that you guys are all so very inspiring, so just wanted to...
Thank you.
Question is that?
So I think one thing that I can kind of sense from all of y'all is like a sense of confidence about yourselves. Is that something that you always had? Or is that something that you had to work really hard to develop? And how did you get that success?
I think it comes with age. There's a lot of days I'm not confident, let's be clear. I think for me it's always been hard being plus size, working in a women's industry where you fit on a size 6 and everyone is looking at size 0 to size 2 to step into a day and be like, I know about women's and I'm an expert for a size 6 girl. So I've definitely struggled with like being really confident and knowing what I'm talking about. I think it's come through experience, through age, through being comfortable with who I am, and I don't think that that's always easy. But I think it's also having those people who you work with and who you can really get a lot of advice from. So I am very self-aware, especially after last year and how terrible our business was. But I think having partners like working with Lenard and being able to have honest conversations and get honest feedback back, and he understands how I operate. Same thing with the people on my team. I like really honest two-way dialogue has built my confidence. Because then it's helping me understand how I'm showing up as a leader or how I'm interacting with various teams, because I'm getting real feedback from someone who genuinely cares about me and is willing to invest the time to give me that, which I think in turn has boosted my confidence in terms of where I'm going. But a lot of it's just a facade at times.
And I didn't that the one thing that I would say, and something that I'm working on, is you know, as confident as I am, I'm very I'm an overachiever, you know, and I ask, you know, sometimes just you know, too much of myself, and I'm very self-critical, and I beat myself down, you know, easily too, because I always want to be like, you know, 1000%, and it's just, you know, if you ask, you know, of that yourself all the time, and especially when you lead people too, because it's, you know, if you're always there, you know, and sometimes you get there and you're not, don't celebrate, you know, that you got, you know, to 80%, which is still really good. It's difficult to, you know, so that, you know, I think that's the one thing that we need, you know, or I would say, you know, to watch out to is like, you know, with that confidence too, is like, you know, just be careful when you ask for yourself too, because it's you know, it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way.
Yeah, I think confidence comes, and I think Anu talked about it, when you know you have support. You're willing to take chances, you're willing to say some things, like, you know, who wants to look at another dog's ass all day, right? You're willing to take chances because you know you're supported and you're able to bounce back. And I think that's, you know, at least for, and when I look at it, is that, you know, my confidence sometimes comes through, you know, having conversation with people like Tom about things that are sometimes difficult, to be able to say, I'm going to say the same exact thing to Glenn. And the confidence of his response will be his response. So I think it just, you know, experience, and I think age does play into that as well.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add, well, actually two things. One, adversity. And when you survive adversity, then, you know, you can be a lot more confident. Yeah, when I was here before, this is when Mickey was still CEO, and Mickey used to have a special assistant job. So for those of you guys who remember that,
Mark Breitbart.
Mark Breitbart was Mickey's special assistant. So after Mark Breitbart was like amazing, phenomenal, nobody can be Mickey's special assistant after Mark Breitbart. So literally, Mickey went through 2 people. Actually, one of them was at Old Navy. I can't remember her name, Stephanie something.
Yeah, I remember.
She lasted about a week. I was pick number 2. I lasted about 3 months. So longer than she did, but I didn't make the long haul either, right? So when I lost that job, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've fallen completely flat on my face. I was like Mickey's special assistant for 3 months, and Mark had recommended me, and like, oh, what a failure. But you know what? You realize, that's okay. That's all right. I survived. I'm here now. I'm doing my career for the rest of my life. You couldn't have told me that like the day after. He's like, I don't think this is really working out. But when you go through that, I think it helps build your confidence, because you know on the back end, if I'm talented and I'm capable, okay, this one thing didn't work out. It doesn't define me anymore, and it shouldn't. So that's one piece I would say that helps. And then the other thing that I've realized for myself is I need to play to my strengths. We spend a lot of time talking about, oh, this is your area of developmental. Spend all your energy working on something that you're not good at, right? No, actually don't do that. That defeats your confidence when you know you're not good. And that's not to say there's certain things that you shouldn't work on, but I think the more you play to, what am I really good at? Where can I add value? You know, where am I gonna take this to the next level in a way that somebody else might not? Then you see success. And when you see success, you become more confident. So those are kind of the 2 other things, I think, that help build confidence over time. But if you had talked to me, if I'd been sitting in this chair, you know, 20 years ago, actually I wouldn't have been sitting in this chair because I've been too terrified to sit in this chair 20 years ago. So age does have a lot to do with it.
That's 3 for age. And so we're coming close. One last question.
I have one. And you were saying that you had a really tough year, and also you were saying about failure, like how do you overcome? What drove you to know that you could come out of, like, you know, really bad business, bad year? What drove you?
My team of people that I was working with. I would like to say as well, Michelle, who I think had support and belief in us. But I think most of it was my peers and my team. I think knowing that we knew where we were going, and I think we were so in it that there was knowledge of exactly what we were so aware of what we had done wrong that we knew not to repeat that same mistake. I think the hardest part was knowing that we had to prove it and that other people were going to take longer in seeing it because they weren't as in it as we were. And having the support of, for me, my boss, being able to go to her and talk to her about what it was and building that confidence that we actually knew what we were doing and having small proof points along the way of letting us stick to our strategy and win, I think was really helpful. But I think it's belief in the team, and I think knowing that you have the right people who are playing to different strengths. So I think I really thought long and hard about the team that I had and making sure that the team I had was not only diverse in thought, but that I had the right players in the right areas, and that we were making the right decisions for the organization in terms of how to move forward and putting them in those areas, I think was really important. But for me, that's, I think, what helped get me through was I wanted to prove it to myself too. Like, I know I'm better than this, and I am that lead dog, and I'm not going to let you down, and we're going to do it together, because we're going to show that we can come back and deliver 20 comps and bring back the business. So I just knew that, I was looking out there, like, nobody else can really actually beat us, so you just have to have that mindset that you're going to have a winning attitude, which I know we talk about a lot, but I think really does make a difference. If you think you're going to fail, you're going to fail, but if you can, Mickey used to say, risk big, win big, and we took a risk.